This time on the Cyclists, we meet Paul Lander, who recently completed 100 back-to-back triathlons. Yes, that's right, 100 consecutive Olympic triathlons. We also have advice from our usual experts in bike handling, maintenance and Pilates tips from Kirsty on dealing with tight hip flexors.
Hello, today we're meeting with Paul Lander, who's done something rather exceptional. He's done 100 triathlons back to back without a day off, is that right? So it's not strictly just cycling, but we thought we'd find out a bit more. But as is tradition on the channel, we're going to do our questions just to get to know Paul a bit. Okay, so Paul, when you're cycling, do you like to wax, shave, beat, or just leave it?
Totally leave it, not that important.
There you go, like that.
Mid-ride gel, banana or cake? What would be your
all gels.
fancy?
All gels.
Coffee shop, pub stop or no stop? More relevant to cycling, but...
absolutely, but you know...
Mid-swim pint.
Okay, mid-swim pint, that'd be nice. Yeah, it's triathlon, you got to run just after. So yeah. It's rare you can actually get a stop, but Sunday rides, occasional coffee stop.
On this cafe stop, would it be tea or coffee for you, sir?
Coffee.
If you're in the pub, maybe after a triathlon, would you be a lager or sort of ale man?
I grew up in Yorkshire, so the ale but it's got to be good ale.
Yeah.
And someone else probably would have bought it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know me too well.
Not you, just Yorkshire. Matching kit or don't give up?
Matching kit, yeah, it's got to be good proper.
Was it cycling that first got under your skin? Was that your sort of passion, or was it more the running and the swimming?
The running was my forte.
First, yeah.
But cycling probably second, and swimming was dreadful.
Yeah.
I was dreadful at. But now they're all about equal. Got to a certain age, wanted to be fit.
Yeah.
I thought marathon running is going to be too harsh on the legs, so
yeah.
Why not mix up the sports?
For you now, what do these, we'll throw all those sports in, but what do they represent to you? Is it merely a form of exercise? Is it?
No, I'm 58.
Yeah.
And
are you?
I am 58.
Well,
They all represent a feeling of fitness, but also being able to keep ahead of the youngsters coming in.
It's a competitive level.
Very satisfying. Yeah.
In today's session, we're going to look at a really good hip flexor stretch and a stretch for our deep lower back muscles. As cyclists on the bike, we spend a lot of time in a flexed position. Hip flexors get really tight and our lower back muscles get tight as well. So this stretch is going to help to focus on both, hopefully give you a relief of some pain in the back, and it's one that I'd recommend doing every time you cycle, before and after. Now obviously on the bike, we spend a lot of time in a flexed position with our hips and they get really tight. When they get tight, it alters the position of our pelvis and ultimately pulls us into positions that we don't want to be in. It causes lower back pain and has all kinds of repercussions. So it's really crucial that we keep our hip flexors as loose as possible when we're cycling. We're going to do a kneeling hip flexor stretch. So we come to a kneeling position, our knees are under our hips, hip distance apart. Put one foot in front, just with your foot just in front of your knee. From here, imagine that we're rocking the pelvis like this. I want you to really think about tucking your bottom under. So we're really tucking under here, and then we just start to push through until the front knee is at 90 degrees over the ankle. By tucking the pelvis under, we extend the stretch through the hip flexor here, and you should start to feel a really juicy stretch in that area. You want to hold this for a little while. These are big muscles and they get tight, so really hold that there. And just think about continually tucking under the pelvis. And if you squeeze your bottom, so squeeze your glute as well, that really intensifies the stretch. We can add on to this and start stretching through our deep muscles in our lower back as well by lifting our arms up and then just slightly extending through the back. We bring the arm, that's our same arm as our knee, down, and we just start to reach over. Still keeping glute engaged, stretch through here, and you'll just start to feel this really juicy stretch now through this side part of your lower back. And the muscles that we're stretching here, we often neglect, and it's really important we get those stretched out as well, because we use them a lot when we're cycling to stabilise us in position. You want to hold this stretch for at least 30 seconds, but keep checking in with your body. Make sure that your glutes engage, you're tucking under, you're really stretching through here. And then we go on to the other side. Couple of watch out points. If you don't tuck your pelvis under, you can just kind of go forward and lunge like this. That starts stretching something quite different, and we're not going to get the intensity of the hip flexor release that you want. So we're not looking for a really long journey forwards here. We're just looking for a tuck under, pushing through, and you'll feel it come on straight away. Definitely one to make sure that you're doing before and after you're cycling.
We needed to raise £4.5 million to build a memorial to police officers who died on duty. And the campaign had stalled.
Yeah.
I'd been involved through my business. I ran a police publication. I produced that and edited it. It needed a big push to get over the line.
The challenge had to be so unreasonable that it generated lots of traction.
I thought, I've got fit now. I'm going to do something while I can actually do a big challenge.
Yeah.
And I thought, triathlons are the things. So, well, what's an unreasonable amount? 100. That'll get some publicity. I'd never done anything like it. I'd tried to do 2 back-to-back as a tester and failed. And so this got to...
After you'd had the idea?
Yeah. And a lot of companies had put money in, the government had put £1 million in.
Yeah.
And so we needed another £1 million to get over the line. So I thought about doing something. I'd got fit. I'd started in triathlons at the age of 48 to get fit in later life.
So the incentive came first, the cause was there first, and then you felt moved to do something, and you decided to do 100 full Olympic triathlons back to back without break through winter. It was a good idea.
Well, starting on the 31st of October sounded like the best moment, because I was a policeman in the 1980s, and on the 31st of October 1984, I think it was, Sergeant John Speed was killed on duty, and unarmed police officer going to investigate an everyday occurrence, left with a widow, left with young kids. So it was something that made a big impact on me at the time, because it was in my police area. Actually, 5,000 police officers have been killed or died on duty, and it's, because I've got to see, and I've commemorated those people who've died on every single day over those 100 days I did the trial. What we would do was, on certain dates, for instance in Manchester, with the death of Detective Constable Stephen Oakes, went there to commemorate that particular occasion, or in North Yorkshire, PC Andy Bremer was there and met all his family and his friends and took part with some of them. So humbling. There was one in Manchester I did, and the guy who did it with me did it at short notice, and his son, police community support officer, was cycling on duty and was hit by a car and killed. Very humbling, and to raise awareness, because every day I did this, I was doing a lot of social media, I was publicising it, the BBC and featured it, the ITV did a couple of times. So raising awareness of of this, not only to raise the money to build this memorial in memory of these officers, but to raise awareness of the fact that police officers are doing this for us every day.
Hi, I'm Ian from Firecrest. Today we're working on corners. So if corners are driving you around the bend, what we're going to have a look at is how to get better going around those corners for you. And so what we do is break them into 3 bits. The entry, setting everything up, the section, maintain and monitoring, and then on the exit, getting ready for the next section, and so riding out of that. And that applies on road or off-road, just getting yourself ready to get round the corner. So on the entry, what you want to do is set 3 things: your body position, and so making sure you're nice and strong on the bike. What we call it is the gait. And so keeping that closed, staying strong, keeps a lot of energy into the bike rather than softening off and letting the bike move around too much underneath you. Then footwork, making sure your feet are in the right position. And then there's a lot of debate over whether that outside pedal should be down or level with the trail. We can look at both techniques and see which one works best. And it's very much a process of application. And then looking, again, making sure we're looking ahead, so looking through the corner, trying to look through as early as you can so you can see your exit, and then you can program in the next bit you're looking to do. And of course, speed control, making sure that you're not going to be going too fast or slow. So it kind of goes without saying that you'll be controlling the speed on the entry to the section, but it's really important to make sure that you're not just thinking about braking. You might want to brake, roll or accelerate going through that corner. And then as you come through, maintaining all of those bits, making sure you stay nice and strong, pushing through the corner. So one of the big things that catch a lot of people out is as they get into the turn, they start to want to pull the bars rather than pushing them. By counter steering, we can drive the bike through the corner and give ourselves a lot more confidence and make the bike work a lot better. With the head up, that sets you up for the exit, and then you're through the corner from there. So quite a lot going on, but if you can get all of those elements working in tune, the corners just flow, and then you start to carry that speed that you're looking through for every corner.
For those who haven't done one, an Olympic triathlon is 1500 metre swim.
It begins with a 1500 metre swim.
Yeah.
And then transition to the bike.
Yeah.
So because mine was winter, most were on a watt bike in a gym.
Yeah.
With occasional jumping on the bike and out on the road, but then just over 40 kilometres on the bike.
Yeah.
And then transition onto to a run.
Yeah.
And 10 kilometres running.
So recovery must be essential when you're doing that. Did you have a strict routine with that, or did you take Simon's approach and pop down to McDonald's between events?
A mixture, and it changed as we went through. So it started by needing a lot more nutrition at the beginning than I did at the end, and some nutrition during the triathlon, whereas towards the end I didn't need so much. But yeah, I was typically having 4,000 calories a day of food, and sometimes that's really hard to do because it's typically 4 big meals.
Yeah.
And so always before any triathlon, even if it's just the one, you need a substantial meal at least 2 hours before you start. And because mine were always in the morning, so first thing in the morning, and so I'd have to get up at like 4 AM, have a big meal, big breakfast, typically porridge, bananas, and then in the pool, finish the triathlon, big meal, another big meal just after lunch, and another big meal in the evening.
And we're forgetting to include here that you did a day's work. Also,
yes,
after doing the triathlon, running your own company.
I was the editor of the Policing Journal, which is how I got involved in this particular.
So it was all about routine, and very strict routine as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
In order to get through.
Absolutely.
This, yeah.
Getting in the pool as close to 6:30 in the morning as I could, and then finishing around about 9:30 to be in work before 10. And then doing a full day's work, finishing around 7 PM, so I could then get home and eat and sleep.
And you were documenting all this you were writing a blog as well and keeping up with all the social media in order to promote it.
try100.uk.
There we go, yeah.
Is that's still live now if people wanted to go and see what you're about?
It's still live.
Yeah.
So you can see what I was doing each and every day, and particularly I made a note of every day, every officer who died on that day in history.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I made a note that I looked at and got to know the stories behind those officers. I wanted to do them at a reasonable pace. I knew I couldn't do like the eyeballs out, but I would do a one-off. So very much I was doing the 1500 metre swim in typically 29 minutes, where I would typically do the swim in 4 minutes faster than that if I was going with a one-off. And then the bike ride on a watt bike, it would be 1 hour 12, 1 hour 10, where I was going eyeballs out, maybe closer to the hour. And for the 10k run, I'd probably, on a eyeballs out triathlon, it'd be 43 minutes, 42 minutes. And for these triathlons, I was doing it in 49 minutes typically. Occasionally I'd got it down to 45, 46, but occasionally it was longer when I was doing it with somebody else when I was visiting the forces and doing it with the relatives of somebody who died. Or occasionally when I had injury. Very early on, I ran into a lamppost, which hurt my shoulder, and I was worried I wouldn't be able to swim, or I'd be swimming in circles perhaps, with one arm was out. But it was okay. I was very tired. It was day 4. Day 5, I started hobbling with my knees, and ended up trying to figure a way to cope with knee problems, and I put some prosthetics into my shoes that I got from many years ago when I was doing sprint training, and that seemed to work. So by the time I got to sort of 25, my knees were recovering. But there was one run, day 5, when it was a lot longer, and it was like, eek! I've told everyone I'm doing 100. I'm on day 5, and I'm having to hop occasionally. But then the worst point was definitely the flu.
Really?
This was January, and it was actually in the lead up to that Lincolnshire triathlon, and in the few days before, it was horrendous. And then on one particular Sunday, I could barely cycle. I was on a watt bike trying to get through it. I was propped up on the handlebars and just turning over the pedals in absolute coughing and spluttering and streaming, and I really do not envy anybody who got on that watt bike after me.
You've still 17 triathlons to go at this point.
And gradually over the next 7 or so, I managed to recover, and the final 10, when you come out of a cold and suddenly you feel revitalised, the last 10 were amazing.
So is that the point you felt, I've got this?
Any time I could be struck and not be able to finish. For somebody who at that time was 56, it's a big thing to do. My body seemed to cope. I suppose it got into the routine. So actually, when I stopped, it was hard. It was like, okay, well, what happens now at 4 a.m? Should I get up at 6? A lot of people were saying, you've got to keep going. Just taper off, sort of thing. But I was much leaner. So much leaner. There was hardly an ounce of fat on me. But afterwards I didn't take advice, I just stopped.
So day 101 you just...
That was it.
A lion.
So 2 years since, I've not done another triathlon.
Maybe not.
Hi, I'm Lee from Otec Bikes, and today's top tips are to do with washing your bike. Tip number one, it's very obvious, start from the top and work your way to the bottom. Tip number two, rinse the bike off first of all and get rid of all the big thick grunge, the cluggy stuff that's hanging on there. Just get that washed off. You can do that with a bucket of water, you can do that with a hose pipe, doesn't really matter. So tip three, use some kind of bike wash, a quality bike wash, and there are many brands on the market. They foam and they clean really well. Most of them are environmentally friendly, so look for that. And they don't cause any harm when they're going down your drains and so forth. They foam up on the bike so you can see where you've put it and you can see where you've cleaned. Tip number four, keep your drivetrain and the rest of the bike completely separate. This is particularly important around the brake area. You do not want the heavy lubricant going from the drivetrain into anywhere near the brakes, and you really don't want it on the rest of your very nice, beautiful bicycle. You can use something like this, or you can take yourself down to Poundland and get yourself a dedicated bucket and scrubbing brush. But they need to be separate.
This is a Great Britain track cycling top. It's signed by the whole of the track cycling team, who are at the Olympics right now. Hopefully bringing home the gold medals for us very shortly.
How did that come about? Who organised that for you? That's incredible.
Well, that was given to me by somebody on the team.
Yeah.
And weirdly, somebody who's no longer in the team but is on the Irish cycling team, Emily Kay. I'm very grateful to her, and her father, who's a senior police officer at the time. But he gave this to me, and that will be auctioned very shortly to raise money for the memorial, for its upkeep.
Crucially, you raise lots of awareness for the cause, and you help them move along closer to hitting their target.
Indeed, we've raised over 4 million, and almost at the 4.5 million, which gave them the green light to go ahead and build it. So over this past winter, they've actually built it. It's there ready, and tomorrow, at last, we've got the dedication ceremony with some very high-profile guests, and be streamed, broadcast live into every police force. It's bound to be a moving ceremony. There'll be relatives of people who've died, such as the parents of Fiona Bone and Nicola Hughes, the two officers who died in Manchester, brutally killed, and many others who've died. And we get to celebrate the fact that we've actually achieved that, and we can commemorate that. And this is at the National Memorial Arboretum, and it's a very prominent memorial at that site.
And during the 100 triathlons, what were the particular highs and lows that stand out?
Probably the highs were kicking off. We had a good launch at a major policing conference, and then probably the last one. We actually finished at the Arboretum and did it with the Staffordshire Police running team, and it was a range of abilities in that running team, and to actually do it with them and run into the Arboretum to finish there was great.
Pretty special,
A number of low points, very worrying, that running into a lamppost, the injuries, the flu. Very difficult. Giving up Christmas Day and Boxing Day.
I was going to say Christmas Day.
Having to find a pool that was open in freezing temperatures. It was an outdoor pool but heated, and cycling in -degrees. Tough and sacrifices, but you cannot compare the sacrifice of me doing that to what officers have done. So just lows were not too bad.
No.
Not too bad. But some great times during it. Got to meet some amazing people. People who wanted to share that with me, and even two chief constables doing it with me.
And you ready for the next challenge yet? Anything bubbling up?
irresistible urge just to dust off the bike?
I think you might be, you know. We just had a quick chat while you were in the kitchen there.
Oh yeah.
Well, the urge is there, but I think if I did anything, it would be to commemorate what the NHS has done. The bike has had some cobwebs taken off of it, and it's actually seen the road.
There's something going on.
There's a twinkle in the eye, isn't there?
Look forward to hearing what that is. Paul, thank you very much. That's been truly humbling, very inspiring.
My pleasure.
Truly humbling.
My pleasure.
Great. I look forward to seeing what you do next. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.